Sam Elliott's deep, gravelly voice has shaped generations, powerful, grounded, unmistakably Western. But behind the mustache, the cowboy hats, and that stoic swagger, this story imagines a quieter fire burning beneath the surface, a kind of slow anger shaped by decades in the industry. In this fictional telling, his 60-year career brings him respect from fans and filmmakers, yet also leaves him with a handful of names he can't quite shake. The tale opens with a dramatized moment involving Kevin Costner. The cowboy figure, Elliott, supposedly could never quite see eye to eye with. In this imagined world, authenticity is Elliott's creed. Every line he delivers in this story comes from a place of raw truth. He isn't performing a cowboy, he is one shaped by ranch life, dust, discipline, and the rhythm of the land. That imagined honesty is what gives his voice its leathered texture, his eyes their weathered depth. So when this fictional version of Elliott watches Costner step into roles like Wyatt Earp or the Patriarch in Yellowstone, he doesn't see the West he knows. Instead, he sees Hollywood polish-clean boots, perfect lighting, emotion delivered like lines from a script rather than something lived. He sees a West made for postcards, not for men who've jammed fence posts into hard soil or woken to cattle in cold air before sunrise. In this narrative, he even turns down a cameo with a dismissive, "It's a soap opera in a cowboy hat," not out of spite, but out of a belief that the West should mean something deeper. This imagined tension deepens when the story moves to the power of the dog, in a fictionalized podcast moment. Elliott fires off blunt criticism of the film and its star, Benedict Cumberbatch. His remarks, sharper and less filtered than his real-world public persona, typically allows ripple across the industry in this dramatic retelling. Social media erupts. Critics call him outdated. Others defend his passion for the genre. Through it all, this fictional Elliott doesn't waver. He stands firm, like a man bracing against a storm rolling across open plains. In this version of events, his frustration isn't about any one person, but about what he believes the Western stands for: grit. Silence with weight behind it, integrity carved from hardship rather than ornamentation. To him, the film's interpretation of the West seems like a psychological portrait stripped of the honor he holds sacred. And so the tension lingers. Not as a tabloid feud, but as a clash between two visions of the American frontier, one rugged and traditional, the other modern and introspective. In this imagined version of events, Sam Elliott sees himself as defending a legacy, a tradition built on silence that spoke louder than speeches, on scars that carried their own stories, on men who never needed to explain who they were. In this telling, Benedict Cumberbatch never answers publicly. Those close to him sense he's quietly stung, caught off guard by the intensity of the criticism. Studio executives consider releasing a careful statement to cool the moment. But ultimately, Benedict chooses stillness over spectacle. Elliott, in contrast, doesn't shift an inch. He stands by his words the way a gunslinger stands after firing his shot, unblinking, already knowing where the bullet will land. To him, the West isn't a genre, it's a creed, a way of being that demands honesty, grit, and a certain reverence for what it means to belong there. In this dramatic retelling, he refuses to let anyone, no matter how acclaimed, reinterpret the craft he's spent his life honoring, and if his imagined remarks about Cumberbatch rattled the industry, the next name shakes it even harder: Ashton Kutcher. In this fictional world, Elliott sees him as someone who turned acting into something shallow. Acting, to him, is sacred, built on patience, truth, and discipline, not charisma, brand strategy, or online influence. Every performance must come from someplace lived in, someplace scarred, so when Kutcher rockets to fame through sitcom stardom, slides into romantic comedies, and reinvents himself as a tech investor, Elliott, in this story, doesn't see versatility. He sees disrespect. It feels like watching someone treat his life's calling like a hobby or a marketing strategy rather than storytelling. Yet when Netflix pairs them in the ranch, he doesn't protest. He shows up, hits his marks, and carries himself with the professionalism he's built his name on. But behind the scenes, the silence between them settles like dust in an empty saloon, thick, strange, almost electric. Crew members sense an uneasiness, the kind that doesn't need raised voices to be heard. He's a good guy, Elliott is imagined to mutter in private. But he's no actor. It isn't Kutcher's personality that grates on him. It's what he represents. A Hollywood where algorithms outrank instinct, where exposure matters more than depth, where image overshadows soul. Others call it progress. He calls it erosion, the slow wearing away of something sacred. Audiences see chemistry between them. Elliott sees craft and professionalism holding everything together. Kutcher, always courteous in interviews, praises Elliott as a mentor. But in this fictional version, Elliott remains unmoved, muttering to friends that Kutcher performs, like someone who learned acting through quick tutorials rather than lived experience. It isn't about bitterness. It's about principle. He holds the line stillness over spectacle, substance over shine, truth over trend. And if this tension adds fuel to the fire, the next imagined name stirs an older storm, Nicolas Cage. Loud, bold, unpredictable. Where Elliott believes in simmering emotion, a glance, a quiet breath, a single weighted word Cage embodies the opposite. Subtlety is Elliott's compass. Excess is Cage's terrain. In this dramatization, their artistic philosophies collide before they ever share a frame in this imagined version of Sam Elliott's world. The soul of performance lives in restraint, the kind of quiet strength that doesn't demand attention but earns it. So when Nicolas Cage bursts into the spotlight with explosive energy, wild gestures, eyes blazing, emotions spilling everywhere, this fictional Sam doesn't see genius. He sees chaos. Cage, to him, isn't disappearing into characters. He's staging a one-man circus, dazzling, noisy, oxygen-draining. Even when they share the screen in Ghost Rider, Sam keeps his polite distance. He's respectful, never rude, but never warm either. Later, in interviews where he avoids naming names, he talks about actors who hijack scenes with ego, turning every moment into a personal showcase. Bigger, louder, but somehow emptier. Those close to him in this tale know exactly who he means. To a trusted friend, he mutters. He's more firework than flame. Bright, loud, and gone in a second. While Cage builds a cult following with unrestrained intensity, this imagined Elliott stays rooted in what he believes matters: control, depth, the steady fire that burns long after applause fades. Real power, he thinks, comes from drawing an audience closer, not blasting them back to him. Cage symbolizes a shift in modern cinema hunger for shock over story, spectacle over substance. Art turning into performance for performance's sake, and though awards and critics praise Cage's daring unpredictability, Sam, in this dramatization, never buys it. In his eyes, no gleaming trophy can disguise what feels hollow. Real acting isn't noise or virality. It's truth, stillness, and the quiet humanity that lets a performance breathe. Those are the qualities he believes Cage long abandoned. Then comes the story of Jeff Bridges, the friendship that slowly cooled. Once they seemed carved from the same stone, rugged, grounded men who could command a room with stillness alone. When they appeared together in The Big Lebowski, they were perfectly matched to halves of a single rhythm. Off camera, their friendship felt just as natural, easy conversations. Shared values, a mutual devotion to simplicity and authenticity. But over time, a subtle distance creeps in. No clash, no argument, just a slow drift neither man chooses to name. After Bridges wins his Oscar for Crazy Heart, Sam begins noticing changes. The quiet craftsman he admired is suddenly appearing in glossy spreads, posing on red carpets with slogans, giving polished interviews that feel more curated than candid. He becomes harder to reach. Someone close to Sam describes Bridges as less grounded, more crafted. To this fictional Sam, feels like the friend he once knew. Someone who prized truth over trend is fading behind Hollywood sheen. It isn't jealousy. It's disappointment. Sam has built his life on the belief that integrity is the one thing a man can't afford to lose. Watching a friend drift from that ideal cuts deeper than any critic's review or co-star's slight in a rare interview. When asked about past collaborators, he offers a short, cryptic remark. Some folks change. Others just show who they always were. To many, the meaning feels unmistakably. Quiet nod toward Jeff. Bridges never responds, staying true to his calm, understated nature. But the silence between them begins to speak louder than words. They stop appearing at the same festivals. They stop championing each other's projects. A friendship once built on shared stillness settles into a long, unspoken distance. In this imagined world, the brotherhood that once felt unshakable simply fades. For Sam, the loss isn't about ego or rivalry. It isn't jealousy, fame, or politics. It's something quieter, heavier. The hurt comes not from a single wound, but from erosion the slow, silent wearing away of a friendship built on shared values and mutual respect. What was once a bond between kindred spirits becomes a memory wrapped in regret. Those close to him say he felt abandoned, not because Jeff wronged him, but because Jeff drifted into a world Sam no longer recognized. That quiet ache, like losing a brother without ever saying goodbye, stayed with him, but even that heartbreak would pale next to what followed. Because the final name on Sam Elliott's unspoken list isn't a friend, a rival, or even someone he once stood beside. In this dramatized telling, it's a symbol of everything he believes has gone sideways in Hollywood. That old ache, deep and lingering, is nothing compared to the clash that comes next. The last name Jared Leto isn't merely a man. He's a test of Sam's entire philosophy. To Sam, the greatest sin in Hollywood has never been ambition or confidence. It's pretension. It's the overinflated seriousness that turns art into theater for the actor's ego rather than a story meant for the audience. Acting, in his eyes, shouldn't scream for attention. It should disappear quietly into truth. So when headlines erupt about Leto's extreme methods, sending bizarre props to co-stars, living inside characters for weeks, turning sets into endurance trials, this fictional Sam doesn't see brilliance. He sees spectacle. A performance about performing. The awards, the buzz, the fascination with his method, madness, don't impress him. They irritate him. To Sam, it all feels like a celebration of excess over essence. That's not talent, he's imagined to have said once. That's theater pretending to be art. And if he says something like that, he means it. Behind closed doors, he's even sharper. If it takes that much effort for him to act, he grumbles to a friend in this story. Maybe he's in the wrong business. To Sam, true acting doesn't need shock value. It doesn't require chaos or controversy. It's about stepping into a role with quiet discipline, humility, and respect. It's about truth, not tricks. It's about serving the story, not consuming it.